Welcome back. My name is Dr. Marianne Shepard, and this month we're talking about schedules of reinforcement. This is the fourth video in our series this month, and we are talking about intrinsic motivation in this video. There was some research done several years ago on will reinforcement damage intrinsic motivation. And the researchers found that some reinforcement does damage intrinsic motivation. But what happened in that study? Was it a good study, or were there some flaws in the study? So the study that I'm aware of that did some of this research was done on the Book-It program. The Book-It program was a wonderful program. I was a Book-It kid. I still remember reading my book so that I could get my pizza on the pizza day. And it was such a wonderful experience. And it led to a lot of reading in my life. But what the researchers did was they looked at what was reading prior to the Book-It program, what was the rate of reading while the students were on the Book-It program, and what was the rate of reading immediately after the Book-It program. And so what they found is that there was a dip or a pause in reading following receiving their pizza or receiving their reward. And so what they concluded was that receiving the reward damaged and being rewarded for reading damaged their intrinsic motivation or their internal joy of reading. And so then they concluded that these students were less likely to read in the future because they were no longer receiving reinforcement. Well, there were some flaws, lots of flaws. Okay, the first flaw in this research is that they didn't account for that post-reinforcement pause. And so we talked about the schedules of reinforcement in the last video. And in this program, once you read 25 books, you got a free pizza. Well, once you finish your final, if you went to college or if you took semester tests in high school, once you took your test, did you go home and study? After your job evaluation, where your boss comes in, maybe you work really hard on a project and you know your job evaluation is coming up, and after you have that job evaluation, how do you work the next day? Are you working quite as hard, or are you kind of taking a deep breath? After the students go home in May, are you back in your classroom, or are you taking a break June and July? What happens is when we're on a fixed schedule of reinforcement, we work really hard until we receive that reinforcement, and then we take a break. We take a pause. Our behavior dips before it returns. And so these researchers, what they did was they measured the behavior in the pause. They measured behavior when the students had just received their reinforcement and were taking a dip. But they didn't do a longitudinal study where they measure reading over time. Another thing is, in order for something to have to be intrinsically motivating, you have to be motivated or like it to begin with. So, who of you that are watching love to run? Some people love to run. I'm not sure I love to run or don't love to run. I do a lot of it for somebody who professes to hate it. But when you look at running, not everybody is a natural runner. Not everybody is a natural fitness buff and find reinforcement in running. There are a few people that find internal joy in running, but not everyone finds that internal joy. And so it doesn't matter whether I reward you or punish you or do nothing. If you don't enjoy running, what are you not going to do? You're not going to go run. You're going to say, no, that's not for me. I'm not a natural runner. I don't like it. It makes my body hurt. It makes me breathe hard. It's a lot of work, and I don't like it. Well, not all kids are naturally good readers. Not all kids are naturally good listeners. Not all kids are naturally good sitters, like sitting in their seat and waiting. And so some children don't find everything naturally reinforcing. And sometimes you have to learn how to do something before you can find the joy in doing it. And so in order to damage your intrinsic motivation, they would have to have intrinsic motivation to raise their hand and sit nicely to begin with. And not all kids have that motivation. And so you can't damage something that doesn't exist. So those are two flaws in intrinsic motivation and in the research for intrinsic motivation. What I would like to encourage you is if you have a child who's having a difficult time with something, go back and watch. Is it a skill deficit or is it a performance deficit? Is it something they can do or something that they won't do? And even if they can do it, I can do my taxes, but I don't want to. I don't find it joyful. I don't find it motivating. Now, somebody who is an auditor or loves numbers and loves finances, they may really enjoy that challenge. I don't. So it doesn't matter if you reinforce me for it or if you don't reinforce me for it. You can't damage my internal dislike of taxes. But maybe if you reinforce me enough with a lot of money, I might start to like it. And so you want to look at, does the student already find this joyful? Do they already find this motivating? And if they don't, you're not going to hurt anything by reinforcing them with it. I hope that this has helped. If you have any conflicts or any internal struggles of should I reinforce or should I not reinforce, if you do reinforce, you have the likelihood of opening the door for them to experience positive parent-child interactions. You have open the door for those positive teacher-child interactions. And if it's something you're reinforcing like math or reading or writing, you have the opportunity to teach them joy and then fade out your reinforcement so that they then can experience natural contingencies of reinforcement with that. Have a wonderful day, and I hope that you found this wonderful or enlightening. Please follow us on YouTube. You can click the follow button below, or you can also follow us on Facebook at Everyday Behaviors with Dr. Mary Ann, or on our website at www.everydaybehaviors.com. Thanks.